Rogers TV, Barrie. Welcome to Hitting Home with Mike and Arif. And Chris Leader is one of North America's top real estate and sales trainers, and his skills as a trainer, speaker, and industry consultant are in high demand in our highly competitive industry. Welcome to Hitting Home, Chris.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Arif, by the way. I appreciate being here.
Yes,
you guys look great.
Absolute pleasure to have you. And it's been a couple of years since we've been face to face, but I still, as Mike alluded to, master trainer, I still keep your notes and my Bible from your course and all of the ground rules that you shared with us. I still keep them handy in my office every day.
Well, thank you for those compliments. I appreciate it very much.
Glad to have you here. Mike, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. And I expect, Chris, like all of us, you have had to rely on ways to continue your work remotely, which I think has got to be tough for someone who's used to standing in front of a crowd to ply your trade. How's that been going for you?
Actually, Mike, it's not been bad. I have to say that we were very fortunate in no matter what business we're in today. I think technology was at the right spot when this problem presented itself. The opportunity to use WebEx or Zoom or go to meetings, Teams, that sort of stuff has made it real possible for us to kind of cross that chasm and get to the other side. I will tell you that generally doing live audience work, probably the piece that's most difficult or probably doesn't even exist at all is the transition of humor, because adult education is a combination of education and humor and entertainment. Yeah. And it's really hard to transfer that humor across a Zoom meeting and get people laughing, you know. So yeah, but all in all, Mike, it's been okay, and I can't complain. I've been fortunate.
I was going to say the sound of one hand clapping, right? If you're not everybody, if everybody's on mute, you can't pick up the energy. So,
you know, a lot of times, Arif, when I'm talking to a live audience, whatever it is I'm doing from a humor perspective, the energy gets picked up by the people around you. It's like a kinetic energy in the room. Yeah. So that makes it a little more difficult. But I got to tell you, we've been really fortunate to have the technology we had when this happened.
Mm-hmm. And with that, the opportunities within those challenges of isolation, working remotely, what would you say they are for the realtors that you work with?
I think focus is part of the issue, Mike. I think that when we all were able to go into the offices with a regular schedule and work from an office environment, I think when you're in an office, you pick up a lot of good vibes from the people around you. You know, a lot of what we do requires an enthusiastic approach to the marketplace and our buyers and sellers' needs. So I think not being in the office around other people in the industry has an effect on us emotionally. I think that there's a lot of times really good ideas are transferred from one agent to another. And since we don't have that same face-to-face time, I think it affects us. I think it's hard when we work, when we don't have an office at home that's set up and designed specifically for work. And there are a lot of distractions in our home environment that can take us away from, you know, staying on point. So it does have its own set of challenges, but I would imagine it's been wonderful to get up and go right into your office and go to work without having to get all organized and commute to a regular office and that sort of thing. So it's a little give and take.
Well, I'll tell you, I speak with people on a regular basis and sort of try to gauge the field. And there are definitely those who say, in order for me to be in my best, be in my prime. And I remember, Chris, you teaching us actually, and I notice you're standing right now. And you said, when you're on the phone, you got to be standing, you got to be walking. You can't be sitting behind your desk. You can't be with your feet up on the phone, because that transfer of energy and your diaphragm even, for example, has an impact. And I just picked up on that with you right now, because there are people, colleagues that I work with, who say, I have to get in my suit and tie, or at least my sport jacket and my shirt every day, because I need to feel my best, and I need to psychologically, I need to put myself in that zone. So even if I'm going from the bedroom to my home office, I need to be in the zone.
And I think there's a lot to that. I think that being in sales, requires us to be optimistic and emotionally excited for our clients. I mean, nobody wants to work with a pessimistic real estate person. So I think that you're right. There's energy that goes along with being successful in our trade, getting up for the opportunity, overcoming the challenges, being excited. And I think some of that's missing when we don't go into an office and get together with other people. Collaboration and the transfer of information and education is so important. And I think that working remotely makes it not impossible, but just a little more difficult. I would go on to say everything I've learned in real estate in 40 years has been taught to me by somebody who's walked the path ahead of me. So I think it's really important when you have connections with other agents in the office, it's just a little phraseology, a little information, maybe insight off the hot sheets in the morning on something new that maybe you kind of missed or didn't pay enough attention to. There's a lot of really good stuff happens inside that space. I think it's going to be really interesting when we come out of the pandemic to see what the real estate office of the future looks like. We are going to have more people working remotely. And I think the big issue coming out of the pandemic is going to be staying connected with the people we work with. If you're a broker who owns an office or a manager, or if you're a salesperson that's looking to acquire more information, I think it's so important for that human connection. So it'll be interesting to see how many people stay at home, how many people come back into the office, and what type of effect that has on our business overall. So we're in kind of an interesting space right now.
Mike, I just want to jump in here. Chris, you gave some great insight there, and you also talked earlier about the fact that we were fortunate, at least you were fortunate in your business, that technology was at least at the point that it was. And we've certainly seen these companies providing platforms have to race to actually broaden their scalability, like their bandwidth to be able to deliver. But I think the one thing that really comes out of it, regardless of what business you're in, real estate or not, those who really were sort of 1 foot in and 1 foot out, or really resisting the investment, the deep dive into embracing digital technology, they probably were the ones who have had the steepest climb or the greatest challenge. Because if you had to learn two things, not just how to adapt to a pandemic, but actually had to invest in your infrastructure and train yourself and train your clients, really, because that's really what it is. You got to teach your clients how you're going to work together. That was a steep curve for some. Those who had embraced it or who were adaptive to it, receptive to it, probably have had a much easier time.
Yeah.
It's interesting. You brought up a lot of things in one sentence there. And I would say to you that I was fortunate with our company because we do group coaching and it's done in a distance environment. So before the pandemic, we'd been using Zoom for about 3 years. We found the platform. I don't even know how. Very cost effective. So that was probably one of the reasons. In the beginning days of video conferencing, it was all very sort of sketchy. Everything was sort of, we were getting all kinds of interruptions and it looked like, the lips aren't keeping up with the words and all of that stuff. But compliments to the technology industry, because very quickly they jumped in, expanded bandwidth. And you and I are doing this right now without missing a beat.
Yeah.
From my classes and in teaching, before the pandemic, the greatest challenge I had wasn't all of the selling skills in terms of teaching people how to be really great real estate agents, but it was the adoption of technology that was necessary at that point. As we went into the pandemic, everybody that was behind the curve, one of the great things about this coming out the other end of this is everybody I'm working with, their technology skills have gone up tenfold. So it's going to make it easier in my live classroom training because people are going to be able to apply all of the technology way more effectively. So in a lot of ways, we are going to be a much better business because of the pandemic, because we got exceptional photography, videography, drone shots. We got twilight shots. We got better website, better social media, and I could go on and on and on. But our agents in our community have gotten so much better because of the pandemic. So that's been good.
With that in mind, I can tell we're going to be in a lot of trouble on this show because this is way off script. Not that there ever was one, but we're over time. We got to go to break real quick. I want you to stay with us on Hitting Home with Mike and Arif, and we'll be back with Chris Leader from Leader's Edge.
Welcome back to Hitting Home with Mike and Arif, and we have with us Chris Leader, who is North America's foremost real estate trainer, in my opinion. And I want to bring it around, Chris, to the type of market we've been navigating for the last year. And what we've been seeing locally and in many markets throughout Canada and the US is a heightened level of buyer activity. But at the same time, we've seen a lot of sellers who are hesitant, or homeowners who are content on waiting it out. I think the fears there are that they're going to sell their house fast and be left homeless on closing day because they haven't found a home to buy. Is there anything you would provide there as some insights that may alleviate some of those fears people might be having? Because I don't know if they're 100% justified. What do you think?
Well, I think that, first of all, the marketplace we're in is pretty much from San Diego to Halifax, Miami to Victoria. It's everywhere. I'm talking to, I do business all over North America, and I can tell you every market's the same. It's tremendously undersupplied. That's being driven primarily by really low interest rates. Those historic low interest rates, and Arif, I'm in your territory right now, but I this is 42 years for me in the real estate business. I have seen, I started with 21% interest rates. Arif, you could tell me right now what a variable is, or a 5-year fixed.
Prime minus 95 fixed, maybe 159, 169, somewhere in there if you're prime.
So 1.5, 1.6 on a mortgage right now. And the reason I say that is I've never seen rates this low. So it's driving the real estate market and pushing buyers into the bottom end, pushing the middle market up, and so on. And I don't expect that's going to change much, at least not for the balance of this year. So I think we're going to have a really hot real estate market all across North America. I think houses will continue to sell very quickly, but there's a lot of benefit in this, Mike. First of all, I would say that, and Arif, sorry, I was going to say that the spring, the markets typically in Barrie would have become a little more open. People start to, once we get a little cabin fever, we get a chance to get out and start looking at stuff. So I expect we'll see more activity. But in terms of selling your house, I think if you're working with a really great experience, and it's got a lot to do with experience, a really good experienced salesperson, they will navigate the complexities of the real estate market and hold you in a safe position. So the first thing, you want to get your house on the market if you're going to make a move. Secondly, you want to make sure as the homeowner, because there are more people who want to buy your house, and you'll have virtually people making multiple offers or offers on your property, you want to ensure that you get enough time to close. So typically we close in 30 or 45 days, but maybe in this market with a short supply of inventory, you might request a longer closing, let's say 3 months. And then it would be probably a good idea for the seller to reserve the right to rent the property back for another 2 or 3 months after closing. That would give them 6 months, let's say, if an offer came in on their home today. And that would give them 6 months to find a house and make a move. And I can tell you that if the house they're looking for doesn't exist this week in the marketplace, it will next week or the week after. They need to be in a position to capitalize on it when it comes up. And a really good real estate agent will navigate that situation carefully, ensuring the seller gets the best price on their home, but puts them in a position where they can navigate the challenge of buying a property in a multiple offer marketplace and being the offer that wins out. Getting pre-approved by Arif would be fabulous, and having your letter of commitment, making sure that you got all your ducks in a row. So when the right one comes up, you can literally make your offer so attractive that the seller would have a difficult time turning it down. So,
and that really is solutions oriented. I mean, what I'm hearing from you is that the right realtor, the best realtor, is going to be the one who isn't just sort of churning the same old that they've done for maybe 5, 10, 20 years of their career, but is really understanding the marketplace, understanding the fact that there's been a significant paradigm shift. The paradigm shift is much like the people used to have a car and a pickup truck. They now got these luxury pickup trucks with leather and infotainment systems in it. Similar is you don't have to have your cottage and your home, or you're not necessarily in a home and commuting to work, but really is your home can be your office and your staycation. Sort of the market and the people's demand have changed, and the pandemic has really brought this to light that, wait a second, we don't have to do things the way we've been doing them for generations.
Mm-hmm.
Really important with the low supply is that the salesperson that the consumer chooses, the seller chooses, has to be, in my opinion, if it was me, I would be looking for somebody who could navigate the complexities of this market, give me confidence that this isn't their first day at the rodeo. They know what they're doing, and they've got strategy in place to hold me safe to make this transition possible. So I think that a really good salesperson right now will do really, really well because they'll elevate themselves above the average in the industry. So as the consumer goes, you want to look for exceptional. One of the great mistakes consumers make is they're seduced by the agent that wants to offer a discounted commission. And, you know, in life, you get what you pay for. If you pay peanuts, you're going to get monkeys, and you can't afford to have somebody monkey around with the biggest transaction most people have in their lifetime, and that's the purchase of a house. So often they're attracted by a low commission rate, but then they're disappointed with the experience and things don't go the way they had planned. You're better off, instead of stepping over a dollar to save a dime, to put your focus on quality to make sure that you can capitalize on the opportunity, make sure the move is seamless, and make sure the salesperson knows how to handle whatever challenges are coming up to remove the stress from the real estate transaction and make it wonderful, make it amazing, and make it exciting, not scary.
Yeah, and from all of that, it really does come down to the skill, the enthusiasm, and the experience of the realtor. So I'll ask you the question: in the time you've been involved in the industry, Chris, and you're a barometer for this better than anybody, would you say that the appetite for bettering our craft as realtors has grown over time, in your opinion?
You're probably not going to like my answer, but the answer is I don't think so, Mike. And the reason I say that is the good have always been good. And there are always been people who have looked at our business as an opportunity, not a commitment. And there's a difference between being interested in real estate and being committed to a successful real estate practice. And I can tell you, people 30 years ago who were at the top of their game were at the top of their game, and there was a reason for it.
Yeah.
And today, the people who are at the top of their game are at the top of their game because there's a reason for it. Now, yes, we've had to adopt new technology and we've had to learn to do things more efficiently, but good is always good, and good is an attitude. It's how you approach the opportunity. So again, I'll go back and say a lot of people get into real estate because they have an interest, but there is a small percentage get into real estate because they are truly committed. And if I was a consumer out there, I would look for the committed professional who is constantly striving to be exceptional at what they do, to deliver an amazing experience. Remember, it's not about price, it's always about value. So it's not about how much they charge, it's about how good a job they do. That's the real issue here.
And there with that, Chris, you just made the value of your education series speak for itself right there. I'm going to be recording this one and keeping this one to play on repeat regularly. But we do have to go to break. And when we come back from break, I'm probably just going to turn off my mic and let you go. But stay with us on Hitting Home with Mike and Arif. We'll be back with more from Chris Leader. Welcome back to Hitting Home with Mike and Arif on Rogers TV Barrie, and we're fortunate to have with us President of LeadersEdgeTraining.com, Chris Leader. Thank you, Chris, for making yourself available to us. This has been a training workshop in itself, both for agents and for prospective clients in the real estate industry. But I wanted to jump into a little bit of an awareness piece here, potentially highlight some pitfalls of not going in properly prepared. And so we've talked about on the show the fact that there is a bit of a short supply and there's a lot of demand. And with that can come a zealous realtor, an overzealous realtor who wants to make the transaction happen. But it could also come with potentially an unprepared or undereducated or underinformed buyer. And they may, in fact, put themselves in some jeopardy. And so with the challenge of multiple bids and perhaps even offers going over list, considerably over asking price, you can have people who will make moves in desperation and only to find themselves in a real hot water at the end of that. What kind of advice and guidance can you give to people who are either first-time buyers or just nervous and unsure and feeling the pressure and stress of needing to get that home?
My suggestion, first of all, would be to, if we're going to do it by Zoom or we're going to do it wearing masks right now, but you need to meet with the real estate salespeople to decide which real estate salesperson you feel is best qualified to handle the situation. You want a quality agent who understands the complexities, and then that salesperson really needs to take the hand of that potential buyer and navigate them through making sure that they've got everything in the right sequence. Before you head out to look at houses, you want to make sure that we've been pre-approved by Arif, for instance, and we got all our ducks in a row. And to do that, Arif's going to need a letter of employment, 2 or 3 years of T4 slips, a copy of bank deposits. So as a real estate professional goes, one of the things I would say to a prospect is, I need you to come into the office, let's say. I need you to bring this documentation in. I want to make sure, first of all, when you see the house you want, you don't miss it. Secondly, when you see the house you want, I want to make sure that we've got everything in place so that the offer is accepted and the whole situation is handled seamless. So too often people get the cart before the horse. They run out and find a house, and then they want the mortgage professional to pull it all together, and it's backwards. They end up paying too much. If they get the house, they pay too much. And then the other question I would say, when you got all your ducks in a row, this is the question the real estate salesperson needs to ask or tell the buyer. When we see the right house, I need you to act relatively quickly, and I need you to look at the asking price as not the intended finish line, but the starting line. And the real question I'm going to ask you is, how much would you be willing to pay for this house and be happy that you did? Most people are trying to navigate towards the asking price. And what happens in today's real estate market, because it's so undersupplied, houses go above asking. So the question again, as a professional agent, I would say this to you: forget about the asking price. How much will you pay for this house and still be happy that you did? And that's really how you got to set the consumer's mindset up, to ensure they don't say, we wish we really had bought that one we looked at. I'm sorry we missed out on it now. So.
Yeah. And another approach to that I'm working with people is, if their budget is for a $600,000 or $700,000, say $700,000 house, I'm saying, I'm not going to send you $699,000 listings to look at. I'm going to send you up to 640, 650. We need to leave that buffer zone because you're going to have to negotiate. So the house may be 650, but by the time it closes in this market, you need to be comfortable that you may have to pay $699 for it. So,
and one of the other things that I've noticed, Mike, is that emotion plays into this a lot, and you will oftentimes see people start to justify how they're going to break away from their initial list. So I actually sit with clients and I say, I want you to have a list. I want you to have a must-have list. I want you to have a must-not-have list, and then a maybe nice-to-have list. Yeah. And I think I've even shared this with you, Mike, in the past. And then if the client puts that together, instruct the realtor, do not show me a listing that does not have something on either the must-have list or has something on the must-not-have list, because you got to take the emotion out of it. When you're walking through it and you feel the pressure and you see that there's a lineup, or you hear that there's multiple offers, people will start to compromise. And then, once that honeymoon period wears off, there might be some regret, and we want to avoid that. So
there's something very close to what you're saying, but I would add to it. And that is, the real estate professional, because a buyer doesn't buy houses every day, they don't even know in a lot of cases how to present what they're looking for and so on. As a real estate professional, what I would say to you is that you need to spend some time in the front end and really understand what's important to your buyer. And that's a matter of asking a lot of questions. And I do that not to interrogate somebody, but to understand them, so that would allow the agents I teach would allow them to close on that opportunity sooner, because they have a deeper understanding of what's important to the client. So,
Chris, you've shared a lot of great information here today. And I would say, just to summarize here, what would you say are the skills that realtors should be working on to polish up and polish their game? But more importantly, the buyer or seller should be looking for in that realtor when they're preparing to buy or sell, and now they've got to go out and select a buyer or select an agent. What would you say those points are?
Again, my suggestion would be to work with a really good salesperson who has a good reputation, who understands the neighborhood that you want to buy in. They would be considered an area expert. You want somebody who's hyper-focused and can articulate inventory, supply, days on the market, how much houses have gone up, so that the consumer feels confident they're talking to the right agent who's really knowledgeable about the marketplace. Secondly, that agent should also be able to structure the transaction, the offer to purchase, when they see something, in such a way that elevates them above the other offers in the marketplace. I'd recommend a larger deposit than normal right now. to clean the offer up as much as possible. I would look at sending a commitment letter from Arif, saying that I've been approved for my financing. I might, as a buyer, consider buying a warranty for the seller between the time the offer is accepted and the time the transaction closes on any of the mechanics to take any of the uncertainty out of the transaction.
Right.
I might consider paying part of the seller's moving costs to make my offer more attractive. And I might consider paying part or all of the real estate commission as a way of making my offer more attractive. What this does is it increases the net and uncomplicates the appraisal process, strengthens the bank's position on a loan. But
with that, Chris, with that, we are out of time. Chris Leader, president of leadersedgetraining.com. Thanks. There's so much more where that came from. We'll see you again soon.